Hello everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you very much also for agreeing to be part of the sound desk team at St Mary's and have an understanding of how to use the microphone and the sound system that we've put into church. Thank you for your wonderful comments about the system so far. I'm hoping you're enjoying being able to see the words on the screen for the services, and hopefully you feel that the audio in church is clearer and easier to hear for everyone who's taking part in the service. As we go forward, I'm going to do some videos as well on how to use the screen and how to use the Easy Worship system, which is the system that operates the words, the videos, the songs, everything that goes onto the television screen in church. But this first video is how to use the actual audio system, how to use the sound system. So it covers how to make the sound come through the speakers from all of the different microphones that are in church, from the piano keyboard that's used by me or Margaret or Seb, whoever's using it, and also the PC input that gets the sound from your laptop if you bring one into church through the church speakers. So this first video is everything to do with sound, and then as we go through, the other videos that I record for you will be on how to use the television screen and how to pair that up with the computer being used on the sound desk. I hope the video is clear and that by the end of it you've got a clearer understanding of how to actually use the sound desk. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to arrange a Zoom meeting, if you'd like one, so that I can cover any other questions that you might have. This first one is a basic introduction to the sound system, so I don't talk about everything that's actually there on the mixing desk or on the sound desk. But if you'd like more detail on it, if you message me, I can send you a more detailed video where I can talk about what all of the different switches, knobs and buttons on the sound desk actually do. But hopefully this one will give you an overview, just so that you feel comfortable and confident in turning the system on and making sure that the microphones are working. I'm going to do it step by step so that you can pause the video at any time and revisit any of the sections that you might need to. I'm really looking forward to being back in Mellor Church again with you soon, because it's such a wonderful church community and I do really enjoy being part of it when I'm in Lancashire. Here's the video. The first thing you need to do if you want to use the sound system in church is to make sure the whole system is powered up. To do that, there are two main plugs that you need to use. This is the first one, and that simply goes into the wall here. The wire will normally be somewhere here on the pew. So this is the part of the church that uses the choir vestry, and this is where the second plug is that you need to plug in. It will just be somewhere, probably here, hanging down, and all you need to do is plug it into the socket, and that's the second plug. Here we have the hearing aid loop monitor, or the hearing aid loop amplifier. This needs to be turned on in order for all the sound that comes through the sound desk, the computer, all of the microphones, all of the inputs on there, now come through this hearing aid loop monitor. This needs to be switched on the wall here. Now, when any audio is playing through the sound desk, it will be heard by people with hearing aids through their hearing aid when they turn it onto the T. At this point, the system should be on. If the buttons have been left switched on and the plugs have just been taken out by the previous user, you should find the whole system is on. If it isn't, don't worry, because I'm going to show you how to turn each individual item on. The first one is this. This is the amplifier. This needs to be on for the sound system to work. To turn it on, all you have to do is press this button here, and the amplifier will turn on. The second button that needs to be switched on is at the back of the sound desk here. It's a little switch. At the moment it's on 0. Flick it up, and you can see the sound desk will illuminate. If there's some pops through the speakers, don't worry about it. It's just because all of the inputs are starting to become live. We then have the microphone boxes, and I'll show you again in the video a little bit later how to turn these on when we get to using the microphones. But just to show you quickly now, simply press the button here, here, and here once, and the screens will illuminate. If you're wanting to use the CD player, this just needs to be switched on here. Off and on. Once all of those switches are on, you're ready to use the sound desk. So all the audio system in the church, all the inputs, all the microphones now come through this mixing desk here. So at the bottom, you can see that we've labelled all of the inputs for the audio that you can use in the church. So we'll start on this side, the far left side. This input is for belt 1. Belt 1 is the body pack, the body transmitter that has the headset attached. So if someone is wearing this microphone and using this microphone system, that sound comes through belt 1. The next label along is handheld radio. The handheld radio mic is this one here. It's one that singers can use or speakers can use as well. All of the inputs for this microphone come through handheld radio. So this section controls this microphone. Moving further on, we have pulpit. That is the microphone where the vicar speaks from, obviously in the pulpit. And as we go across again, we've got belt 2. Belt 2 is the body pack, similar to the first one, but this one has a microphone that clips onto a tie or onto your shirt, called a lapel microphone, and that one is belt 2, and that comes through this channel here. The one labelled chair, moving further along, is the vicar's chair and the microphone that is used on the vicar's chair. Then we have lectern, which is the Golden Eagle lectern over there. And then we have 2, the first of which is PC. Now, PC is the computer that will be set up here on the sound desk. So that's the computer that's feeding the television. Any kind of audio that you want on the computer, if it's a video of the children in school singing, a video of anything, or any kind of worship song or music, comes through the PC input. The last one, keyboard, is the input for the keyboard that can be used to play music throughout the service, and that is that input there. So as you can see at the moment, all of the lights next to these buttons are on. You can see the lights are illuminated. When the lights are illuminated, actually the microphone, the channel, so the microphone or the PC or the keyboard is actually muted. So when the light is showing, it's on mute. That means no sound will be heard through the main speakers in church. So the main speakers in church are this one here, and also the one on the far side that's round the corner of the pulpit. Those are the main speakers. So if you want a sound, if you want one of these inputs to be heard through the church main speaker, you need to unmute the one that you want to hear. For a standard service, we would normally have the pulpit microphone unmuted so that the vicar can use the pulpit, the lectern microphone unmuted so that any readers using the lectern can be heard to the church main speakers, and we would also have the chair, which is where the vicar sits, so that the vicar can talk through the microphone by the chair. Now the chair, the lectern, and the pulpit microphones will be heard through the main church speakers. We also have the other 2 that we talked about. We have belt 1 and belt 2. If a singer was using the belt 1 transmitter, at the time when they were singing, we would want to unmute the belt 1 transmitter. If the vicar was speaking or another speaker was using the belt 2 transmitter when they were speaking, we'd want to unmute the belt 2 transmitter as well, so that that speaker could be heard through the church main speakers as well. If you want to use the computer, if you want the sound to come from the computer to go through the church main speakers, you would unmute PC. And if you wanted the keyboard to be heard through the church speakers, you would unmute the keyboard on that channel. For belt 1 and belt 2, it's best to only have them on when the speaker needs them, because obviously these are being worn by somebody. They can switch themselves onto mute on the top. There's a little button here, and when the belt pack is switched on, which I'll show you how to do in a moment, it can either be on mute, which means no sound will be transmitted through the microphone, or it can be unmuted by switching it to the other side. The speaker themselves can do this. If they do, you can leave the belt 1 or the belt 2 unmuted. But if they forget, and they're talking at some other point in the service, or they've sat back down again, and actually you don't need them to be heard, but they've forgotten to switch themselves off, if you leave these unmuted, then their voice will continue to be heard through the speakers. So if they forget to turn themselves onto mute when they finish speaking, it's better just to click them onto mute so that nothing else can be heard that shouldn't be in the service. I'm just going to go through how to turn these belt pack transmitters on. This one at the moment is already on, so I'm going to turn it off. These have 2 AA batteries in them. It might be at some point that the batteries will need replacing, and then the unit will warn you of that. So to turn it on, you simply press the on-off button here. Open the front cover and put the button on. There's a battery symbol that actually tells you how much charge is left in the battery. So at the moment this has 2 out of 3, which is fine for a service. When you turned it on, close it up, and it's ready to use. Apart from remembering when you want to speak, you need to move the button at the top to the side away from mute. It's exactly the same with the other belt pack transmitter. These 2 belt pack transmitters come through these 2 boxes here. You can see we've got them labelled belt pack 1 and belt pack 2. So these 2 also need to be on for these microphones to work, because the radio frequency transmits from this microphone to the box, into the desk, and to the speakers. So as well as turning these on, you need to turn these boxes on as well. To do that, if I turn them off, I can show you how to turn them on. It's again very easy. All you need to do is press once, and the box will come on, and the other box, and that box will come on as well. So you've turned these on, you've turned those on, and then when you're ready to speak, you unmute belt 1 or belt 2, depending on which one you're using. The handheld microphone works in exactly the same way. The turn on for the handheld microphone is at the bottom. It's a very small red switch. You push the button, hold it in for a short time, and the microphone will come on. This one, unlike these, doesn't have an easy-to-use mute button. The handheld microphone comes through this box here that says handheld. So if you're using this microphone, then you need to turn this box here on as well. Otherwise, the sound won't come through the speakers. We've just mentioned that this microphone doesn't have a mute button like these ones do. The easiest way to mute this microphone is simply to use the sound desk where it says handheld radio and click the mute button on. That's the easiest way to mute the handheld microphone. So we've talked about where each microphone is on the mixing desk. We've looked at how to turn the microphone transmitters on, the belt packs and the handheld, and we've learned how to turn the receivers on, these boxes here. You can see here on the sound desk that there are sliders. Now I've preset these sliders so that they're at the right level, so they shouldn't need too much adjustment. The adjustment that you might need to do is on the PC and possibly the keyboard. The sliders are very easy to use. Pushing them up means that you have a louder sound coming through the speakers. They're basically like a volume control. The further you push up, the louder the sound will be. The keyboard is the same. The further you push up, the louder the sound will be. The further down, the quieter the sound will be. It's important, if you can, to avoid adjusting the microphone ones here. Although it sounds like they should all be pushed to the top so that the loudest sound can be heard from the microphones, pushing them much further will actually result in feedback because the microphone will be turned up too high. If you get feedback, what will happen is there'll be a high-pitched squeal that comes through the speakers. And in order to stop that, you'll have to drag the slider down quite quickly. We have set all of the microphone sliders at the correct level. They're loud enough so that anyone who's using them can be heard easily, but they're not so loud that we get feedback. But that's what the sliders are for. If we look over this side, there are only two more sliders that you need to think about. We have this one that's labelled main, and this one that's labelled monitor. This main slider here will adjust the levels of all of the inputs. It's like the master slider for all of these sliders. So if you push this one louder, all of these here will get louder. If you push the main down, all of these will get quieter. But for now, you should leave the main where it is, because otherwise, all of these will come out of adjustment. All you should need to do is adjust the level of the PC, the computer, if you want it louder or quieter, or the keyboard if it needs to be louder or quieter. But again, we've tried to set the keyboard at a sensible and appropriate level. We've looked at the main. The other thing you can do with this main input is, if you push this button here, which is a similar mute button to the others, all of these inputs here that we've looked at will be muted through the main church speakers. So pushing the main mute here will stop the keyboard, the PC, the lectern mic, the chair mic, belt 2, pulpit, handheld radio, and belt 1 from coming through the church speakers. You will mute all of them. So again, most of the time, this needs to be left unmuted, otherwise you won't hear any sound. The last slider here that we need to look at, this is for the speakers that are in the choir, which is actually where the choir sit. So I'm going to show you these speakers now up at the front, and then we'll come back to the desk and I can show you what this slider is for. These are the speakers that we've now fitted in the choir part of the church. We have this one here, and this one is linked to this speaker on this side. So both of them can be heard by the choir. And this is something new that we've put in to make sure we have sound up this end of the church. Let's go back to the sound desk now, and I'll show you how to control these two speakers. We've looked at how to control the inputs for the main. I'm now going to show you how to control the inputs for these two. So we've just looked at the speakers that are in the choir. Those speakers work from this slider here that says choir speakers. There's a mute button for those speakers. So if you don't want sound to be heard in the choir part of the church, if you turn that button off, those speakers will stop making sound. But if the main button is still unmuted, you'll still get the sound through the main speakers of the church. Looking back at these mute buttons here that we looked at before, even if all of these are on mute, if the monitor, the choir speakers, is unmuted, you will still get sound in the choir speakers, even if all of these are muted. So if you don't want sound through the choir speakers, you have to turn off this button here. You have to push it, the light comes on, and it's muted. Otherwise, all of these channels will still be heard through the Quire speakers, because these mute buttons here only work on the main. And remember, the main are the two main speakers in the church. We've also fitted the CD player from the old Sennheiser unit on the other side of church to the sound desk, so you can continue to play CDs if you want to. As we mentioned at the beginning, this turns on here, so you just simply need to turn it on there, and then you use the buttons down here like you used to do when it was over on the other side of church. Once you've put your CD in, press play. To adjust the level, to adjust the volume of the CD player, you need to use this little knob here that is labelled CD vol. Turning it this way, turning it clockwise, will increase the volume and make the CD player louder. Turning it anti-clockwise will make the CD player quieter. At the moment, it's set on a level that seems sensible for the CD that we tested it with. But if you have a particularly loud CD, you might want to start the level a bit quieter so it doesn't come through the speakers too loudly. If it's a quiet CD, you would want to turn the level up. This cannot be muted even if the main mute is on. It will still continue to play through the speakers. So if you want to stop the CD player, you have to press stop on the player itself. Pressing the main mute or the Quire speaker mute will not stop the sound of the CD player coming through the speakers. It must be stopped on the CD player itself. These two wires here are for the computer that will go on the desk. This is the HDMI lead, which connects directly to the television screen. So if you want your computer screen to show on the television, you need to plug this into the HDMI slot of your laptop or PC. This cable is for the sound. This needs to go into the headphone socket of your computer. And I'll do another video for you that shows you how to set up the HDMI and the sound cable so that the video comes through the screen and the sound comes through the sound desk. This is much better than having the sound on the television because the speakers are not loud enough to be heard in the main body of the church or in the choir area. When you've plugged in this lead into your laptop's headphone socket, you can control how loud or quiet the sound is using the PC slider. Unmute, push the slider up to make the sound from your computer louder, or down to make the sound from your computer quieter.